Hey guys, I'm Palak Lakhani. Welcome to my channel. In this channel, I make educational and motivational videos focusing mainly on studying and working in Germany. So if you are new here, consider subscribing. Now, if you haven't seen my last video, then please see it. In last video, we had Niranjan with us who shared his master degree experience in Germany. And today he is again with us to share his PhD experience in Germany. So his experience will be really valuable to all of you who wants to pursue a PhD in Germany because he is in his last stage of PhD.
Before deciding to watch this video, this is an informative video which is very subjective. So each PhD journey is different, each PhD topic is different, it has to be different. So this is just the opinion expressed in terms of people with bachelors in mechanical engineering background and those who have studied material science. So or people with similar career background can follow this kind of video and get some information about it. That doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot generalize the information. Of course, most of the things remain unchanged also for other PhD positions, but it, like I said, it's subjective. You're in the right place to hear about the PhD related to thin film ferroelectric materials.
So thank you, Niranjan. So could you please quickly tell us about your PhD topic?
So, in general terms, I work in this field called thin film ferroelectric photovoltaic materials. It might sound
It's
complicated,
a
but
complicated name.
I will try to make it sound as simple as possible. So, mostly we are working on these class of materials which people are interested in making high voltage photovoltaic materials. These materials are seen to be promising for applications like photovoltaics, and these are also ferroelectric materials at the same time, and they are in the form of thin films. So the thickness would be only few nanometers. So by doing such a PhD degree, you will get a new perspective to look at the materials which you can see around on daily basis. You can imagine them in the form of different scales like nanometer scale, micrometer scale, millimeter scale. So you can break down the things you see around in and see in a different perspective. So the initially proposed topic was train engineering of ferroelectric PZT thin films. That was the initially proposed topic. But things will not work as planned. So during my past 3 years as an working as a PhD student, so I came up. So the things which fail are always not negative. So certain things failed, but it was something new which was happening in the materials. So we could report that in terms of a publication in one of the reputed science journals. So because of which my initially proposed topic cannot be maintained the same. So now we have come up with a new exotic topic called photoelectronic processes in ferroelectric thin films. So with this, I just want to say that your PhD topic might be something, but it is always subjected to changes.
Thank you so much for that introduction. So, could you please tell us from where you are doing your PhD, from which institute you are doing?
So I work in this young research group called Center for Innovation Competence, which will fall under Natural Science Faculty too,
Okay.
or it also works under Institute of Physics. So we work in collaboration with institutes like Fraunhofer Institute, Max Planck, and also Fraunhofer Center for Silicon Photovoltaics and Fraunhofer Institute for Material Research, which is in Halle.
If someone wants to apply for a PhD after his or her master's is done, then what are the major criteria to get selected or to apply for PhD?
One simple thing which I want to talk about is, unlike many other countries, in Germany you will not pay to do your PhD. Instead, you will be paid.
Exactly.
Because you are working for 3 to 5 years and you don't want to work by paying.
Yeah.
You will be paid in terms of salary. It can be salary, or it can be scholarship, or it can be just stipendium. So that depends on many factors. That's one thing to keep in mind before thinking of applying for PhD in Germany. Another thing is, if you ask me what GPA is good, for that there is no standard number, I would say, but the higher the better. So you should have good amount of marks scored during your masters. So I can only say in that way, because it really depends on who is sitting there to hire you. So that person might give importance to the number of publications you have, or the patents you have, or just the practical work experience from a company. Some people might even give importance to GPA. So it really is subjective, and it depends really on the person who is sitting there to hire you. That's another important thing. You should really see this section called requirement section very carefully and then think, because some people after finishing masters, it's not very common that you can be an expert in a particular scientific technique, right? You learned something through lab course and you worked couple of times, that doesn't necessarily say that you are an expert. So in this requirement section of PhD, have a look on whether they are expecting some expert in this field, or it's okay to just have this theoretical knowledge behind it. So by taking a clear look, you will avoid yourself procrastinating or saying negative things to yourself. Oh, I just did this practical course and I consider myself an expert or someone who doesn't know anything. So you don't have to be confused. And another thing which I want to mention is that there are different kinds of PhD positions. Something, one being individual PhD position, and another one where you will be hired by a project which was already granted to your supervisor, for example. So individual PhDs are those where you will write a project proposal, right? So you will write a project proposal to funding organizations like Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, DAD or DAD, I don't know exact way of pronouncing it, and also Helmholtz associations. They have a lot of fundings for PhD students. So in all these cases, it's individual PhD. So you will write a proposal, submit it, that will be subjected to scrutiny, and then finally you will be called for an interview. So that's the individual PhD positions. Another one is that it's similar to the one which I'm doing. So it was a project by Sonderforschungsbereich or some XYZ. So that was already granted in the name of my supervisor, and I am being hired to work as a PhD student under him. So these are the two differences one should take into account. And so far, the things which I said applies both to students who did masters in Germany, and also for students who are trying to apply from India. Along with these things, there are certain other things which will add up in terms of the documents necessary. You might just need some letter of recommendations. Also, people who are applying from Germany, they also need letter of recommendation, 2 to 3 letter of recommendations from your master thesis supervisor, and also those professors who taught you during the masters. So that is also necessary for. It's also equally valid for students applying from India, right? So most of the things stay similar, except that you will be asked to do some exams like IELTS, like how you were asked before starting the master's degree program. Other than that, these are the general criteria, and since this video is more of a general perspective, we can address more in detail when individuals are interested about it. Right?
So my next question would be that there are so many countries in Europe which are equally eligible for giving a PhD and also giving a stipend. So why did you choose Germany?
Since I did my master's here, I was quite aware of the work culture in Germany. I personally liked it, and I was also halfway through with my student research assistant. I mean, I finished my master's, so I knew the language, right? So I was halfway through with my language skills, or let's say I had put some effort, 20-30% of effort, and I did not wanted that to be wasted. Plus, I also like the topic which I'm working right now. So it's quite interesting, and it makes you a different person. End of 3 or 5 years, you get to learn, meet a lot of people, different people with different skill sets, which you could never meet before. That's one reason why I decided Germany. And the main thing is that it's interesting to look at the facts and figures. So the funding which goes into research and development in Germany, it's massive. So it's like 100 billion euros was invested in research and development in
That's a
Germany
lot.
in 2017 alone. 100 billion euros alone for research and development. So out of 100 billion euros, German private sector, which is massively occupied by German automotive industry. You know how famous automotive industry is. So out of 100 billion, 69 billion went to the private sectors. Other 31, right? Other 31 percentage was taken by the universities, the private organizations like Max Planck, Fraunhofer, and things like that. But still, you can hire quite a lot of people in this funding. So funding is another thing why Germany is heard a lot in terms of research and development.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, what types of different PhDs a person can do from Germany?
Like you were asking me few hours before that, in general, it can be individual PhD program or a funded PhD program. But more or less, I think all of the PhD programs are funded.
Okay.
Some through salaries and some through stipends or scholarships. But to categorize into two different things, at least in natural sciences field, I can say one is called Doctor Rerenat, which translates to Doctor Rerum Naturalium. So which just means that it's a postdoctoral degree offered, for instance, in some European countries like Germany, Austria, for fields like mathematics, physics, biology, chemistry, geology, computer science, and so on. So this is the kind of PG degree offered for these natural sciences field. But doctor engineer degree, it's also offered for certain topics like this, but it's more on applied science perspective. Okay. So it's not fundamental research. Dr. Rerenat, if you see Dr. Rerenat in front of someone's name, then he has done fundamental research. Okay. Doctor engineer is more of applied science research. Okay. It also depends on under whom you do your PhD, in which institute. But honestly, I think this difference is only within Germany and Austria. But once you go outside, or once you consider working outside after PhD, then
You are
a doctorate is a doctorate.
doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Doctorate is a doctorate. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, what status does a PhD holder hold in Germany?
So if I get it right, you are asking in terms of the visa status.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So initially you will get a contract of 3 years. So that will be the initial contract, though it can be extended for 3 to 5 years because it depends on the discipline and the topic on which you are doing your PhD. So you will not be kicked out of your institute if you can't finish by the end of 3 years. Okay. You will always get an extension, but it's better that you try to finish as quickly as possible. Okay. And you will get a normal work visa or blue card for the initial 3 years. And you will get a designation called Wissenschaftliche Mitarbeiter or scientific research assistant, or in simple words, Doktorandin, which means PhD students. Okay. That's the status in terms of visa and in terms of the student status. So it's a bit tricky because you are both working individual in this university and also student at the same time. That's the trick here. So you have to get the PhD degree finally by the end of 3 or 5 years from the university, right? It's only the university which has the right to award an individual a PhD degree. So you will also be registered as a student at the same time and getting some benefits like semester ticket and access to gym, swimming pools, libraries, etc. So that's another thing. I also have met quite few people who are doing PhD with different situations. Like in my case, I have single contract from single institute, but few of my friends, they have dual contracts. Though the position is, let's say it's a 100% position, 75% is funded by one of the main institutes and another 25% is funded by another institute. So automatically, it's understandable that your tax class will also get affected by this dual contract, right? So this kind of thing happens, dual contract thing happens because let's so it's simple because your topic was thought of by people belonging to two different institutes, like some people from Fraunhofer, some people from Max Planck. They sat together, they collaborated, and then came up with this idea. So that's how this PhD position came into picture. So that's why you will be given to dual contract. Yeah, so these are some of the statuses which PhD students
Okay.
possess.
Yeah.